Hello beauties, welcome back to the vlog. This week we have been talking about teamwork and the importance of making that work for you. So today we're going to talk a little bit about welcoming feedback and being open to feedback. You know, I don't know if you've heard this phrase about getting a thicker skin, right? And having a thick skin at work, but I don't think that phrase is realistic. It doesn't really mean anything. How are you supposed to have a thick skin? How do I do that, right? And so I had read a couple years ago this book by a guy named Joseph Folkman, and it's about the power of feedback. And I think he has some cool things to say. He was featured in a bunch of magazines a couple years ago. And what I like about his thinking is that he talks about a term he calls psychological hardness, which is really another way to say to learn how to become confident in your own abilities, which I really like. And that he thinks that a lot of people have negative self-talk that impacts how they receive feedback. So they'll hear someone will say, well, why did you do X? Why did you do it this way? And in their head, they'll hear, you did a lousy job, you're a terrible person, you do everything wrong. When the person on the other side of the question is really trying to understand why they took that path and why they made the choices they made, right? Because they're evaluating, they're trying to analyze. So it has nothing to do with the tapes or the recordings we have in our head. So I think that's an interesting place to start for the conversation today about feedback. One of the things that he has is an acronym that's FIRE, F-I-R-E. And that we analyze the things that people say before we react. So I thought this was really cool. One of the ways that you can be more open to feedback, and in particular open to feedback that is, one might say corrective, others might say critical, but something that helps you get better, is this acronym of FIRE. So first you say, okay, what are the facts? F is the facts. What are the facts of what's being said here? What occurred? And then what is interpretation? The I is interpretation. So here's the facts, here's the three things that we did, and then we have an interpretation about why we might have done that, right? That's us guessing. That's not us basing things on facts. Then we react. And this is the R. Do you react to the facts, or do you react to your interpretation of what you think occurred based on, I'm not sure, right? Sometimes we do that. We fill in our own story for people, and we don't wait to hear what the facts are. And then the ends. What are the ends to the means? What is going to happen out of this? So if you finished a project, right, and there are facts, you did something on time, but it was too long and it wasn't on budget, for example. Okay, why did that occur? If we interpret that, we might say, well, that person didn't want to complete it, or they don't have my back, or they're not a team player. We go into these really unhealthy, negative conversations when instead we could just ask a question, right? But the reason that we don't ask questions is because people act from this very defensive stance. So we ask a question and that tape in our head starts playing and there's this negativity. So how do we get through this? How do we say, okay, what's the fire here? Is it a fact? Is it interpretation? What am I reacting to? And how does this end? Right? That will help you start to think about how to process what people are saying to you. Another thing here is how to collaborate. So sometimes people think that collaboration simply means that we show up and we claim our part of a process, but that's not what collaboration really is. Taking feedback and giving feedback are part of teamwork in a way that switches how we think about collaboration. So an example of this might be, and the one that Folkman uses is that if we don't receive feedback, we don't learn. And so what we'll do is we'll just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And I'll give you an example. A couple years ago, I was on a conference call with some folks, and I was supposed to be introduced to a group. The meeting was supposed to take about 20 minutes. Just introduce me to everyone. Hi, my name is, get to know each other and what our roles were. And the calendar invite went out, and that was the title of it, and the meeting was set. And I show up to the conference call, and everyone else shows up to the conference call, and people start reporting on the various areas of their jobs. Well, I did this week, and I did that this week, and I did this, and so on. And 20 minutes into the call, now keep in mind the call was only supposed to be 20 minutes total, but 20 minutes into the call, someone says, hey, this meeting is just to introduce everyone to Celeste so we get to know her. Oh, they say. Oh, well, I don't need to be on this call. 3 people say. They leave. 2 people say, oh, my name is this, I do that. I'm looking forward to working with you. Here's my role. And that was about 5 minutes of time. Now, why did they show up to the meeting and all start reporting and doing that? Habit. Because we don't see collaboration sometimes as listening, right? And asking questions. We see it as the thing we're in the pattern of doing. And we do the same thing over and over and over again, and we don't learn to be different. Feedback helps us shift through that so we could have shorter meetings, but also so we can learn and make progress. And then the other thing I think is really important about feedback is that it can be a catalyst to change, right? So Folkman says it's not enough to say, I want to be a better person. You know, you'll hear people use a phrase like that. It's like, have thicker skin. How do you do it? What are the steps, right? Well, you make a plan and you have something measurable. So he uses an example and says, well, maybe you give 7 compliments to people in a day. And then you measure that. And at the end of the day, you say, did I give 7 compliments? Oh, I only gave 5. Well, I'm 5 compliments closer to being a better person. Measurable things help us determine if we're succeeding. So for me, being open to feedback is not something where it's like, oh, I'm criticizing you, or by asking you questions, I don't trust what you did, or your work isn't valuable and good. It's that feedback is really about trying to understand and get better, to change, to improve, so that we can all get somewhere better together. We're all rowing the same direction. I'll see you tomorrow.